Chapter 26. Encountering the thugs again on the way back, Ch.30 saw chaotic crowds everywhere, panicking and gathering aimlessly. Any slight disturbance would cause them to scatter in blind fear, creating utter disorder. Ch.30 hurried back to his neighborhood and encountered 2 more scarlet beetles on the way, which he quickly killed. At the entrance of Building 8 in the neighborhood, many people had gathered, holding torches. Aunt Zhang from the neighborhood committee and the man from the 10th floor were standing on the roof of a Volkswagen Passat. Ch.30 deactivated his combat armor and approached. He heard the man from the 10th floor shouting passionately, "Everyone, don't panic. Children, the elderly, and women in the middle, men in front and back. Bring whatever weapons you have. Take all the food and water you can carry. Those with cars and fuel, if you're willing to join us, come with us. If not, speak up now. Let's coordinate our actions. I hope everyone can cooperate with me and Aunt Zhang. We must unite now. Only unity gives us hope. Sun Dairui, I agree to join. As long as the children are safe, our whole family is willing. I agree to join, too. Damn it, we'll fight the bugs if we have to." Everyone was talking at once, and most people agreed, except for a few who had other plans. Ch.30 guessed that in the eyes of these people, he was still considered a strong young man, as someone soon approached to recruit him. He had to explain that he had already joined another group and was only back to collect some things. In fact, he didn't have much to collect, just some daily essentials, which he quickly packed up. Before leaving, Ch.30 felt a wave of emotion. In this apartment, he had first cultivated his vital energy, first crafted a talisman, first killed a scarlet beetle, and first forged his combat armor and sword. So many firsts, making this apartment seem like the starting point of his journey into the dark era. Ch.30 had a strange feeling that one day, he would return to this place. This thought was too inexplicable. He shook his head and strode out of Building 8, feeling a sense of liberation as if a fish re-entered the river or a dragon dived into the sea. Ch.30's first target was a mid-sized Ch.30 supermarket. Most supermarkets and convenience stores had long been looted by hungry people, risking their lives. Only places still infested with many scarlet beetles had some supplies left. Ch.30 regretted not prioritizing food collection since the Dark Era began. He had been too focused on the beetles and enhancing his strength. The food he had stored during the Sunshine Era was enough for his use, so he hadn't placed much importance on gathering more. Now, with the evacuation imminent, he realized he needed to gather more supplies, especially since they were now free for the taking. But regrets were useless. Although most stores had been looted, he still knew of a few supermarkets infested with beetles that people avoided. He had discovered them while hunting for isolated scarlet beetles over the past days. This Ch.30 supermarket was located at an intersection. When Ch.30 first came here, there were 4 beetles, and he had to flee. Now, it was a prime target. Despite being 4 beetles, Ch.30 did not dare to be careless. He activated his combat armor and began his usual sneaky approach, a habit he had developed from being repeatedly traumatized by the beetles. Upon arrival, he discovered an additional beetle, bringing the total to 5. Ch.30 calculated for a while and felt confident he could handle them. Facing 5 beetles excited Ch.30. In the past, facing 3 beetles meant either fleeing or risking his life. Now, he could take on 5. How could he not be excited? Not long ago, he had killed 4 beetles and used the absorption talisman to extract their energy, restoring his vital energy to 9 units. He felt confident about handling 5 beetles, though he remained cautious. Ch.30 first sneaked into an old 6-story building opposite the supermarket, positioning himself behind the security door facing the 3 beetles outside. He set up his crossbow with an ice arrow ready to fire. Swoosh! An ice arrow charged with 1 unit of vital energy successfully ambushed 1 beetle. The other 2 immediately charged at him, reacting quickly as always. The security door could only block the scarlet beetles for a few seconds, but that was enough for Ch.30 to reload another ice arrow and fire it almost point blank into the second beetle's abdomen. Meanwhile, the 2 beetles inside the supermarket rushed out. Ch.30 had chosen this staircase entrance because it was narrow and partially blocked by the frozen beetle, leaving just enough space for 1 beetle to attack at a time. The third beetle grabbed him with its pincers, shaking him violently, trying to drag him out. The other two beetles were closing in. Ch.30 knew he had to deal with the beetle holding him immediately. With the combat armor protecting him, the beetle's pincers no longer caused the excruciating pain they once did. Now, even when grabbed, he could maintain his composure. Drawing the thousand fleeing sword, he executed the moves he had practiced while simulating being grabbed, channeling 1 unit of vital energy. He seamlessly performed the chopping and slashing moves, decapitating the beetle. Ch.30 slipped from the pincers, dodging the next beetle's leg strike. He took the opportunity to execute a lifting strike, breaking through the beetle's abdomen armor and slashing it deeply. The beetle screamed in pain, collapsing and writhing before dying. Meanwhile, the last beetle's attack came. It seemed to know its pincers couldn't harm Ch.30 and instead threw him aside, spraying corrosive saliva. Ch.30 landed on a car roof, feeling only mild discomfort from the impact. The corrosive saliva had no effect on his combat armor. This final beetle didn't immediately pounce as he expected but instead shrieked towards the sky. Ch.30 recognized this sound. It was calling for reinforcements. He couldn't afford to let it summon more beetles. With only 5 units of vital energy left, if more beetles came, even with his combat armor, he'd be doomed once his energy was depleted. Ch.30 tensed up, leaping forward with the thousand fleeing sword, channeling all his remaining strength and vital energy. He struck while the beetle was busy shrieking, slicing through its armor and killing it. Knowing more beetles could arrive any moment, Ch.30 didn't rest for a second. He quickly stored the 5 beetles in his storage talisman, then rushed into the supermarket, grabbing anything useful and stuffing it into his storage talisman. After emptying the supermarket, he sprinted along the street, not daring to use his motorcycle, fearing the noise would attract beetles. Ch.30 never realized he could run so fast. He felt like even Usain Bolt would be eating his dust. After sprinting past several buildings, he stopped to catch his breath. Just as he was feeling relieved, he heard intense gunfire and artillery ahead, less than 200 meters away. Adjusting his night vision goggles, Ch.30 was scared half to death. He had chosen the right spot to catch his breath. Ahead, a group of at least 30 beetles was attacking a military armored unit. With danger ahead and behind, Ch.30 didn't hesitate. He turned and ran towards a nearby luxury hotel. Based on his experience, beetles rarely ventured to the tops of tall buildings. 30 flights of stairs were no challenge for the current Ch.30. Sandwiched between danger, he quickly reached the rooftop, only to find it already occupied by several people lying around. Ch.30 couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Clearly, he wasn't the only one who knew this secret. At that moment, the military unit fired flares, illuminating the rooftop and exposing Ch.30 in his red combat armor to everyone's view. His appearance was indeed bizarre. Ch.30 also noticed something unusual about these people. About 10 men with various weapons were standing around a group of people lying on the ground, occasionally kicking those who moved. Thugs? Ch.30's mind instantly recalled his previous encounter with similar people in a restaurant. Chapter 27. Who else but me? After the previous incident, Ch.30 still had lingering fears. These people were ruthless killers and thieves. Now, encountering them again, he naturally remained cautious. He immediately drew his thousand fleeing sword, ready for any action. In the Dark Era, every corner and every moment could bring unbelievable events, but these were not his concerns. As long as these people didn't provoke him, Ch.30 had no intention of clashing with them. It wasn't that these 10 or so people were a threat to him. His real concern was the beetles in front and the ones that could follow behind. A fight would draw the beetles' attention if gunshots were fired, and that would be too much trouble. After killing 5 scarlet beetles, his vital energy had already dropped to 4 units. The situation did not allow him to take risks lightly. Ch.30 stood still, and these people, intimidated by his combat armor, also didn't dare to move. Only a skinny, lame man, holding a weak flashlight, cautiously circled around the water tower. With a thud, the lame man was kicked out by someone, rolling to the side. A tall man, adjusting his pants, cursed at him, "Damn it, can't you wait until I'm done?" Ch.30 deduced that this man was probably the leader of this group. considering his commanding demeanor despite his disheveled state. The man, cursing as he walked, shone his flashlight on Ch.26 from a few meters away. He paused, seemingly startled, then approached cautiously, sizing up Ch.26's exaggerated outfit. Ch.26 remained in a battle-ready stance and replied simply, "Just passing by." The man nodded, his eyes flickering, seemingly assessing Ch.26's strength. Ch.26's appearance was indeed intimidating. Feeling annoyed by the man's gaze, Ch.26 coldly snorted, reminding him not to provoke him. The man's brows furrowed slightly before he smiled and said, "Since you're just passing by, find a place to rest. We won't bother each other. I like making friends. These guys are all escaped convicts. If they've offended you, don't take it to heart." Ch.26 heard the veiled threat in the man's words. He was implying that despite Ch.26's appearance, they were not easy to mess with. Ch.26 had no intention of dealing with them. He nodded and walked to a quiet spot to rest. He needed to restore his vital energy, having used up all his absorption talismans. Only diligent cultivation could help him now. For Ch.26, time was life. Cultivating more vital energy meant more safety. The man, presumably the leader, instructed the lame man before returning to his business behind the water tower, the sounds of which were annoyingly clear in the silence of the rooftop. Ch.26, thanks to the 6 armor talisman enhancing his senses, found the sounds particularly disturbing. He stopped his fruitless cultivation, lit a cigarette, and took slow, deep drags, his thoughts drifting far away. "Hey, got a smoke?" The lame man, with a forced smile, approached cautiously. Ch.26, not wanting to mingle with these people, waved him off. The lame man, after a moment's hesitation, said, "Wait, I'll get something to trade." Without waiting for Ch.26's response, he ran off, making Ch.26 think, crazy. Soon, the lame man returned, dragging someone with him and grinning oddly. Ch.26 found this behavior puzzling. The lame man threw the person to the ground and said, "I'll trade her for half a pack of cigarettes. 1 stick won't do. She's in good shape. I had to hide this from my boss." After listening to his rambling, Ch.26 finally understood. The lame man wanted to trade the woman's body for half a pack of cigarettes. Humans have desires, but those were for times of peace and comfort. Now, in a crisis, Ch.26 had no such thoughts. The lame man and his group lived for the moment, like walking corpses. Ch.26, on the other hand, was on a long journey, just taking his first steps. The road ahead was long. Different paths, different mindsets. Ch.26 wasn't about to indulge. He had once proudly dreamed of winning his own woman, but not like this. Just as he was about to refuse, a thug kicked someone out, cursing, "Damn, hiding biscuits. Think you can fool us?" The person begged for mercy, and Ch.26 thought the voice sounded familiar. Adjusting his night vision, Ch.26 saw that the person was his colleague, Ch.30. He hadn't recognized him earlier in the darkness and chaos. Ch.30's hair was a mess, and his face was dirty. If he hadn't spoken, Ch.26 wouldn't have recognized him. Seeing Ch.30 being beaten, Ch.26's heart tightened. He leapt over, landing a few meters away, and kicked the thug away, helping the begging Ch.30 to his feet. The sudden change stunned the thugs. They gasped as Ch.26 covered the distance in a leap. Ignoring their reactions, Ch.26 checked Ch.30's injuries. Aside from being hungry and weak, he only had minor injuries from the beating, which would heal with some rest. Reassured, Ch.26 patted his shoulder. "Thank me. You're lucky to be alive." Ch.30 murmured, "Living might be worse than dying." Suddenly, he looked up, staring at Ch.26's helmet as if trying to see through it. Ch.26 felt uneasy under his gaze and was about to remove his helmet when Ch.30, trembling, asked, "Are you Brother Chu?" Nodding, Ch.26 withdrew his hand and smiled. "Who else would save you? Who do you think you are?" Unexpectedly, Ch.30 grabbed his armor and, after a moment, burst into tears. Ch.26 never imagined a man who had never shed tears could cry so much. Chapter 28. The beginning of the slaughter. They're all dead. All dead. Ch.30 sobbed uncontrollably. "Brother Chu, my dad, my mom, they were all bitten to death by the beetles. They're all dead. Dead." Ch.30 felt a sharp pain in his heart but didn't know how to comfort him. He hugged Yu Xiaohai's head, feeling the tremors in his body. From behind the water tower came another thud. Ch.30 looked over and saw the gang leader, still adjusting his pants, angrily shouting, "Can't you guys wait until I'm done?" The lame man, with a smirk on his face, got up and whispered something into the leader's ear, occasionally glancing at Ch.30 and Yu Xiaohai. The gang leader, adjusting his pants, pushed the lame man aside and walked up to Ch.30. He pointed to the thug Ch.30 had kicked earlier and laughed, "Brother, I respect you, but what do you mean by this?" Ch.30 frowned. If it weren't for the fear of attracting the beetles, he would have taken Yu Xiaohai away without any issue. These people wouldn't have been able to stop him. Remembering the lame man's earlier trade, Ch.30 pulled out a crumpled half-pack of cigarettes and threw it to the gang leader. "I'm taking this man." The gang leader caught the cigarettes, sniffed them, and laughed, "Brother, I like your style. The man's yours." Ch.30 wasn't naive. He knew the cigarettes were just a way for the leader to save face in front of his men and avoid a conflict. His earlier display of leaping several meters was a significant deterrent. The lame man, seeing the cigarettes go into the leader's pocket, was dissatisfied and came over again. "Brother, do you still want the girl?" Ch.30 shook his head, helping Yu Xiaohai sit down on the concrete opposite them. Yu Xiaohai's lips were already cracked and bleeding. Ch.30 rummaged through his storage talisman for a long time, finally producing some food, a bottle of drink, and a few white rabbit milk candies for Yu Xiaohai. Watching Yu Xiaohai devour the apple ravenously, Ch.30 suddenly realized that compared to these people, his food situation was like heaven. The persistent lame man circled back, eyes fixed on the food Ch.30 had placed in front of Yu Xiaohai. With a gulp, the lame man thickened his face and said, "Brother, oh no, big brother. You really won't trade? Just one cigarette, one will do." The lame man then greedily glanced at the candies, adding, "Or maybe just one candy." Ch.30, annoyed, drew his 1,000-fleeing sword and plunged it into the floor, scaring the lame man into falling on his backside. "Don't bother me again. Get lost." Ch.30 retracted his sword. He needed to restore his vital energy quickly and create a new absorption talisman. Without it, he felt insecure. Yu Xiaohai fell asleep, or perhaps fainted, before he could finish eating. Meanwhile, the gang leader finally finished his business behind the water tower. Ch.30 focused on his cultivation, determined not to rest until he restored 2 units of vital energy. The military withdrawal was less than 70 hours away. He needed to make every second count. Thankfully, his process of absorbing dark energy had become much more efficient. Where it once took him 8 to 9 days to absorb 6 units, now he could do it much faster. After 6 hours, he had recovered half a unit of vital energy. At this rate, he calculated he could gather another unit and a half in 18 hours, plus the 4 units he already had, totaling 6 units, enough to create a new absorption talisman. In his storage talisman, he had 5 scarlet beetle corpses, which could replenish at least 10 units of vital energy. Just as he was about to resume cultivation, he was interrupted by the gang leader, who tried to recruit him. Ch.30 refused. From their conversation, Ch.30 learned that these people had captured Yu Xiaohai and others to use as bait for the beetles, buying themselves time to escape. Ch.30, who had always relied on his own strength to fight the beetles, found this practice abhorrent and refused to participate. If it weren't for the risk of attracting beetles, he wouldn't have even given the half-pack of cigarettes. Every resource he had, whether earned through sweat in the sunshine era or life-threatening battles in the dark era, was precious. With the gunfire and beetle sounds receding, he was no longer worried about the noise attracting beetles. The gang leader, having been rebuffed, gathered his men and prepared to leave for Jinling City, just like Ch.30. As the thugs passed by, one of their captives suddenly broke free and ran to Yu Xiaohai, shouting for help. Yu Xiaohai, who had been sleeping, jolted awake in panic. The figure clung to Yu Xiaohai, and Ch.30, unsure of what was happening, drew his 1,000-fleeing sword, ready for action. Yu Xiaohai, regaining his senses, said, "Brother Chu, it's Xiao Li from the office. She joined after you resigned." By this time, the thugs had surrounded them, guns pointed at Ch.30. Their resentment was palpable, especially since Chu Yunqing had already taken one of their captives. The gang leader, still with a smile, said, "Brother, we gave you face earlier. Everything should have its limits, right?" One of the thugs shouted, "Boss, why waste time talking? He can't dodge bullets. Yeah, let's take him down. Let's kill this guy who thinks he's a superhero." The gang leader hesitated but was clearly wary of Chu Yunqing's capabilities. "Brother, we know you're strong, but we've been living on the edge for a long time." Before he could finish, Chu Yunqing grabbed Yu Xiaohai and Xiao Li and threw them behind the water tower. He interrupted the leader with a shout, "I'm taking them. If you want to fight, let's do it." With a burst of speed, he charged into the thugs. Gunfire erupted, mixed with screams. Ordinary bullets were no threat to Chu Yunqing. With his armor's protection, he moved through the thugs like a wolf among sheep, his sword taking lives with every swing. He realized he was unconsciously using the three-sword technique he'd been practicing, and even without infusing vital energy, his thousand-fleeing sword was unstoppable. By the time he snapped out of it, the rooftop was littered with bodies, each one split in two or beheaded. Blood dripped from his sword onto the concrete, the silence almost eerie. In just 60 seconds, he had killed dozens of men. In his entire life, Chu Yunqing hadn't killed as many chickens, fish, or ducks as he had killed people in the past 60 seconds, not counting the beetles. In an instant, all the thugs were dead except the lame man, who stood there, petrified, staring at Chu Yunqing as if he'd seen a demon. Chapter 29. Rescuing the wrong person. Chu Yunqing didn't kill the lame man, but he still ended up dead, murdered by the crowd of people the thugs had captured as decoys. The gang leader, Liang Sheng, was subjected to a frenzied mob that mutilated his body, even smashing his genitals into pulp. Chu Yunqing smoked silently on the side. Killing people had an impact on him, but it quickly subsided, probably because he had seen so many dead bodies. No one dared to approach him, not even Yu Xiaohai, who looked at him in horror. Chu Yunqing suddenly wondered if he would keep killing, first beetles and now people. Would he have to keep killing in the future? When would it all end? No one could answer his question, not even himself or the ancient book, just like the Dark Era where no one knew where it would end. Chu Yunqing took off his helmet and realized his hair had grown long and messy, blowing in the cold breeze like Yu Xiaohai's. Time to cultivate, Chu Yunqing thought silently. He went down from the rooftop, found a clean room, and asked Yu Xiaohai to wait in the room opposite. He needed to cultivate the remaining half-unit of vital energy. The five-star hotel had luxurious facilities. Chu Yunqing relaxed comfortably on the bed, sinking his entire being into the law to absorb the unseen, elusive dark energy. After 18 hours of monotonous, mechanical, and tedious cultivation, Chu Yunqing finally increased his vital energy by 1.5 units, restoring his internal energy to 6 units. He didn't waste time and quickly took out talisman paper to create a new absorption talisman. A second-tier absorption talisman required 6 units of vital energy. After creating it, the remaining energy in his body was barely enough to control the talisman and transform the scarlet beetle corpses into flame patterns on the talisman and then convert them into vital energy within his body. There were 5 beetle corpses in total, yielding 5 flame patterns and converting to 10 units of vital energy. Chu Yunqing filled up to 9 units, then consumed 2 units to create a new 6 armor talisman for Yu Xiaohai. The last half flame pattern was absorbed into his body, leaving him with 8 units of vital energy. Yu Xiaohai had no vital energy, so the 6 armor talisman's power was greatly reduced, but it was still useful for escaping, as it significantly boosted physical abilities. After completing everything, Chu Yunqing activated the storage talisman and stored all the bedding and other household items from the room. Who knew how long this dark era would last? Even bedding might become a scarce resource in the future. He then started looting the entire hotel's rooms until the storage talisman space was almost full, leaving only enough space for about 10 scarlet beetles. Chu Yunqing thought that once his vital energy was more abundant, he would need to create another storage talisman. Otherwise, he would have no place to store valuable items. A second-tier storage talisman required 6 units of vital energy, which was why he had been reluctant to make another one. Some rooms in the hotel still had many people, likely guests from before the Dark Era, who were now rushing out because an armored vehicle unit was evacuating people downstairs. The hotel was in chaos, with no lights and only a few flashlights for illumination. Chu Yunsheng had initially wanted to go to the city library to find some ancient documents that might help him understand the ancient book. In the Sunny Era, important documents in the library were not accessible to the public, so he couldn't get them back then. But now, with time running out, he weighed his options and decided against it. If he didn't evacuate with the main group, his 8 units of vital energy wouldn't be enough to survive if he encountered a horde of beetles. As long as he stayed alive, he would eventually uncover the mysteries of the ancient book. If he died, there would be nothing to discuss. After a long time, he finally found Yu Shaohai lost in the crowd. Amidst the crowd, Chu Yunsheng sealed the newly created unassigned 6 armor talisman on Yu Shaohai, who was amazed for a long time. The effect was as Chu Yunsheng expected, only about 20% of its full power. Even so, it significantly boosted Yu Shaohai's abilities, making him very agile in the crowd. Chu Yunsheng took out a motorcycle, had Yu Shaohai ride it, and had the so-called new female colleague Xiao Li sit at the back while he sat in the middle. He planned to use this time to cultivate vital energy. Every bit of energy might save his life. He had Xiao Li sit at the back, sandwiching himself between her and Yu Shaohai so he could focus on cultivating with peace of mind. The crowd moved very slowly, and more people kept joining. Various torches and flashlights dimly illuminated the road. Encountering corpses everywhere made everyone anxious and frightened. The cries of children, the groans of the injured, the calls of people searching for loved ones, and the chaotic, panicked footsteps filled the air. Bugs. People at the front screamed, their cries piercing the air. Then came the sounds of tank cannons and machine guns firing. Chu Yunsheng immediately snapped out of his cultivation, steadied the panicking Yu Shaohai, and leapt onto a nearby bus stop shelter, adjusting his night vision goggles to see a large swarm of scarlet beetles attacking the front lines. There were too many to count. Chu Yunsheng didn't waste time counting and jumped back down, deciding, Shaohai, turn back. We can't get through. Many had already turned back. Humans are highly social creatures. When some started to turn back, the entire crowd followed, running frantically. The motorcycle was knocked over by the crowd. Yu Shaohai tried to pick it up but was stopped by Chu Yunsheng. In such a crowd, running was faster than riding. He had bought 3 motorcycles, and losing one was still manageable. With the boost from the 6 armor talisman, Yu Shaohai moved much faster than a normal human, pulling Xiao Li and weaving through the crowd. But the beetles were even faster. Some beetles bypassed the military defenses and charged into the fleeing crowd. Chaos erupted, with screams and blood everywhere. Thud! A scarlet beetle jumped down from a nearby wall, blocking the crowd with its huge pincers, sending several people flying and crashing into the crowd behind them. Yu Shaohai and Xiao Li were caught in the fallen crowd, while Chu Yunsheng leapt over them, drawing his 1,000 sword and shouting, Shaohai, you go first. With one beetle, he wasn't too worried. He charged at it, leapt, and struck with a powerful sword slash. The beetle tried to block with its pincers, but the 1,000 sword, infused with a unit of vital energy, easily cut through its defenses. With a crack, the pincers broke off, and the sword cleaved the beetle's head in 2. Each beetle meant 2 units of vital energy. Chu Yunsheng couldn't afford to waste it. Ignoring the people behind him, he quickly stored the beetle in the storage talisman. At that moment, he saw Yu Shaohai pulling someone and running frantically ahead. More screams erupted behind him. Chu Yunsheng glanced back and saw at least a dozen beetles in his night vision. He didn't dare to stay a second longer and sprinted away. Human stamina has its limits. After running several blocks, many people, weakened by hunger and malnutrition, collapsed by the roadside. Using his night vision goggles, Chu Yunsheng quickly found Yu Shaohai, who was pulling someone and panting heavily by a railing. Surrounded by darkness, with torches and flashlights abandoned, Yu Shaohai and the person he was with didn't dare to move further. Chu Yunsheng led them to a nearby building's rooftop, realizing it was the best, albeit helpless, option to observe the situation from there. On the rooftop, using his night vision goggles, he could clearly see the situation around. The military was still fighting the beetles, but the outcome was uncertain. Ch.26 took a deep breath, sat on the edge of the rooftop, and immediately entered a cultivation state. He was desperate, focusing solely on one thing. Each additional unit of vital energy increased his chances of survival. Suddenly, Yu Xiaohai exclaimed in shock, "Who are you?" The other person, Xiao Li, also asked in a panic, "Who are you people?" Ch.26 instantly realized Yu Xiaohai had rescued the wrong person. Chapter 30. Yu Xiaohai's awakening. Yu Xiaohai was stunned for a while before blurting out, "Oh no, Brother Chu, where's Xiao Li?" Ch.26 immediately reminded him, "You're asking me? Who should I ask? You were the one who wanted to save her and pulled her along. Who knows where she is now?" Yu Xiaohai cried out in despair, "It's over, it's over. Xiao Li didn't make it out. In all the chaos, I must have grabbed the wrong person. I caused her death." Ch.26, puzzled, said, "How is it your fault? Even if we didn't save her, she wouldn't have survived. It has nothing to do with you. Her fate was already sealed." Yu Xiaohai sighed sadly, "I'm so useless. I couldn't even hold on to one person." Ch.26's interest peaked. "You didn't develop feelings for her, did you? You only broke up with Si Jun not long ago. You're too much of a playboy." Yu Xiaohai quickly denied, No. Xiao Li was new, assigned to me as my trainee. It's normal to be concerned about her." Ch.26 chuckled. Yu Xiaohai blinked and changed the subject. "Brother Chu, I was so out of it earlier that I didn't have a chance to ask. How did you suddenly become like a Super Saiyan? So powerful." Ch.26 replied irritably, "Super Saiyan? If I were a Super Saiyan, would I still be running for my life from a few beetles?" Yu Xiaohai poked at Ch.26's combat armor, marveling, "Still not admitting it? This heavy thing on you, and you're running like a monkey. Brother Chu, I always knew you were something special. Just like how you accurately predicted the sun's disappearance. If we had listened to you earlier, maybe my parents." Yu Xiaohai's voice trailed off, ending in a painful sigh. Ch.26, abandoning the rare moment of levity, said seriously, "Xiaohai, the world has changed. Only the strong can survive. The past is gone. Dwelling on it won't help. Figuring out how to live on is the key." The conversation fell silent. The woman they had mistakenly saved finally spoke up, "Thank you for saving me. But who exactly are you?" Ch.26 waved dismissively, "Does it matter? You can leave now." The woman, feeling awkward, hesitated to leave immediately. "Can I rest here for a while?" Ch.26 replied indifferently, "Suit yourself." After a while, the woman couldn't contain her curiosity. "He said you predicted the sun's disappearance. Is that true?" Ch.26 glared at Yu Xiaohai, though the latter couldn't see it in the darkness. Just then, Yu Xiaohai suddenly exclaimed, startling Ch.26. In the dark, Yu Xiaohai shivered and said, "Brother Chu, something's wrong. I feel like my body is freezing, turning into ice. It's karma." Before he could finish, Yu Xiaohai collapsed like an ice block, shivering violently and groaning, Brother Chu, am I going to die?" A flash of realization hit Ch.26. Could this be the self-awakening described in the ancient book? But this reaction was too severe. He didn't know if self-awakening was life-threatening. The ancient book's descriptions were mostly incomprehensible to him, and he hadn't studied it in depth. Racking his brain, he said, "Don't panic. Hang in there. Breathe steadily, and you'll get through it." Soon, wisps of cold air began to emanate from Yu Xiaohai's body. His consciousness was fading, and he was mumbling incoherently. Ch.26 was frantic, having no idea how to handle human self-awakening. Thinking quickly, he figured that fire vital energy might suppress the cold. He handed a flashlight to the equally frightened woman, laid out blankets, and wrapped Yu Xiaohai in them. Then, he took out his pistol, infused it with a unit of vital energy, and fired at another pile of blankets. Fire vital energy filled the surrounding area, clashing with the cold air emanating from Yu Xiaohai, slightly suppressing it. However, this method didn't have much effect. Soon, the cold air within Yu Xiaohai surged, threatening to break through his body. Ch.26 could even hear the sound of cracking ice. Yu Xiaohai had completely lost consciousness and passed out. Just as the cold was about to burst from Yu Xiaohai's body, the 6 armor talisman sealed on him suddenly activated, forcibly pushing the cold air back. But the cold air soon rebounded, and the talisman pushed it back again, creating a repetitive, fierce struggle. Chu Yunsheng observed closely. Each time the cold air was forced back, Yu Shaohai's face relaxed, and he even showed signs of breathing. But as soon as it rebounded, he appeared lifeless again. The 6-armor talisman was indeed very effective. But Chu Yunsheng could do nothing more. Whether Yu Shaohai lived or died depended on his own fate. Just as Chu Yunsheng was about to get up, he suddenly felt the ancient book in his storage talisman start to pulse violently, growing stronger and stronger. At that moment, gunshots rang out below, rifle fire, likely from military weapons. Chu Yunsheng had been so focused on Yu Shaohai that he hadn't noticed anyone approaching with guns. Now he was truly overwhelmed, one crisis after another. He quickly moved to the edge of the rooftop and looked down. Fewer than 10 soldiers were protecting a few people, hastily retreating into the building with 3 scarlet beetles in pursuit. Seeing that no other beetles were coming, Chu Yunsheng breathed a sigh of relief. 3 beetles were manageable. However, the ancient book's strange pulsing remained a mystery. Given the dangerous situation, he didn't dare to take it out to study. He quickly moved Yu Shaohai to the side. The security door below wouldn't hold the beetles for long. As he expected, the group was forced to the rooftop. They had no other choice. Staying on the street meant certain death at the beetles' speed. Entering the building was a gamble for a slim chance of survival. These people had many weapons. In the narrow stairway, the beetles couldn't dodge effectively. Hand grenades could potentially injure them, giving the people a fighting chance. Entering the building was a gamble with their lives. Yu Shaohai was still struggling between life and death. Chu Yunsheng had no time to worry about him. He drew his 1,000-fleeing sword, quietly infused it with vital energy, and prepared for battle. Once the beetles arrived, he couldn't afford to discriminate between friend and foe. A violent explosion rocked the building, shaking it as if it might collapse. Chu Yunsheng feared another blast might bring the whole structure down. After the explosion, several figures rushed up from below. There were fewer of them now. Some must have died on the way up. The beetles hadn't yet ascended, but painful screams from below indicated they were still alive. The group now consisted of about 6 or 7 soldiers and 3 civilians, 2 men and a woman. They looked curiously at Chu Yunsheng in his strange attire, the half-dead Yu Shaohai, and the indistinct woman. Everything seemed surreal. Chu Yunsheng had no time to wonder what they thought. As the woman passed by, he felt the ancient book's violent pulsing intensify. She must have something on her. The ancient book, through the storage talisman, emitted a faint wave of vital energy that only Chu Yunsheng could sense. This wave shot directly at the woman's chest and was reflected back. The woman, puzzled, touched her chest and took out a peculiar pendant, kissing it as if praying for good luck. Chu Yunsheng was certain, the pendant must be related to the ancient book. Otherwise, it wouldn't react so strongly.